Forget. Allow adequate room around you during play. I just want to smack someone with the Wii remote now. Ugh!
That'd be awesome.
I'd like to have George come over and be like, George, come here. Boom! Alright, you can leave. We're all mad at George.
And before no options, yeah. Oh! Hello? Subtitles?
Oh! Now we can talk all we want!
I should have checked that before we started. Sorry.
Yeah, everyone's really mad. Alex Swingle is unsubscribing right now. He's like, hey, you're making fun of babies cry.
my waifu, Samus.
I heard a baby's cry.
I hate everything about this game.
It's like a baby's crying, and when babies cry, you have to...
She gets to the bottle ship because of the baby's cry. She's obsessed with the Metroid she calls the baby.
What's a quick rundown on what Metroids actually are? Because I know they're not really bad things, right?
They're just mindless organisms that are basically the apex predator in the galaxy. So while they're not like evil, they just want to kill everything.
Okay, are they like Alien, where like they do something with the things they kill, or
they suck them dry?
Okay, and that like gives them their life power or whatever.
They can drain the energy of everything and with ridiculous efficiency. So they have no predator other than Samus.
I guess, yeah. I mean, anyone with a gun, right?
Even the X, which the X are like a really cool like organism in general. The X's natural predator is the Samus, or the Metroids.
Okay, but I kind of remember like a Metroid helping you at some point in one of the games.
Yeah, that's the little baby Metroid at the end of Metroid 2, where it literally hatched and I guess it thanks your mother.
I mean, that's a cool idea, but it sounds like they didn't do very well with it.
No, of course not.
Also, is Metroid Prime canonical? Like, or is that like a separate like universe?
So Metroid Prime isn't necessarily non-canonical, but it has absolutely nothing to do with this chain of events. Because there's like basically nothing that happens in that affects the main timeline, so they can easily just say you're canon, but they don't affect anything either.
Gotcha. That makes sense. I just like the idea, even though I haven't played... I don't think I've ever beaten a single Metroid game. I don't think I have. I just like the idea of it being one nice continuation, even if there's like... Or being obvious about, like, Metroid Prime is another universe where Samus whatever.
Yeah, there's so much time in between, like, this game and Fusion where you can basically say that Prime takes place at any point where Samus is interacting with the Federation. And by the end of Fusion, she's not interacting with the Federation anymore. So it has to just take place before Fusion and after Metroid 1. That's all the parameters Prime needs to exist.
When are we going to do a Dead Space LP?
That'd be cool.
I might, if it's like less than $20, I might literally get it on PC.
I definitely have it on my Steam account.
You do? Okay.
Yeah.
Because that just seems like it would be fun on PC.
Oh, it'd be way better on PC. I remember playing it with, there were some mods, because the PC port wasn't great. I remember some mods making 60 FPS and aiming a lot better. And you can also just use controller.
Probably. I think nowadays, like, if someone was like, do you want to play this game on PS4 or PC? I'd be like, I don't care. But, like, back for the 360 ones, like... Especially since they can add all those mods and stuff, I'd be like, yeah, like... I mean, I tried to play Silent Hill Homecoming on PC, but it wouldn't let us. And I think I tried to play something else on PC and it wouldn't let us.
Yeah, it's... Especially in the PS3 and 360 generation, it was so awkward, and it's like everything ran like crap. And even back then, PC ports were pretty bad, but PCs constantly get better, so you can just throw a better graphics card at it.
Yeah. Rip!
You can actually avoid that. One thing I will give this game an amount of, this is pretty cool about it, is that most actions that happen in cutscenes you can avoid.
Oh, that's cool.
If you can. And they don't give you any on-screen prompts, which is something a lot of games suffer from. So you're kind of seeing a problem with this combat system where first-person aiming is really, really, really good and almost makes you, like, not have to play the game as long as you can first-person aim, missile everything.
It's like, why would you play Ocarina of Time and not Z-target, you know?
Yeah. And especially because dodging isn't automated, but all you have to do is hit a direction, any direction, as long as an attack is vaguely coming towards you. So you're kind of seeing what I'm talking about with the everything's locked in 8 directions. Samus, I'm just pushing left, but she's going in a circle because of how it's designed. And because of this limitation, you'll see that the level design in this game is just so boring. It's like so like symmetrical and like manufactured, and it makes sense because it's in a space station, but they took it way too far. Like the space station in Fusion is way cooler than in this game.
You can still have a fun space station.
Yeah, but just not have it look like this.
I kind of get, this is an odd comparison, but I kind of get Dino Crisis 3 vibes, just because like a lot of the places look the same.
Yeah.
Now Dino Crisis 3 is much worse because everything looks exactly the same.
Yeah, I will say I'd rather play this game than
yeah, oh, no question. But I kind of get that general vibe. It's like, you know, it's like Resident Evil uses labs. Look at Resident Evil 2 Remake. Like, the last 20%'s in a lab, but the lab is interesting because labs can look interesting, you know? They can, like, have different things. It doesn't just have to be like, oh, it's a spaceship. It's all corridors.
So one thing about this game that people really hate as well is how excessively linear it is. So when I look at this game, I see all the flaws of Fusion, which were definitely flaws that people voiced their problems with, including me. But all the flaws of Fusion were easy to overlook because of other elements being really good. But this game, all the flaws of Fusion are amplified by a lot. And it's impossible to avoid because there's nothing else to support the game. So you have the excessive linearity, you have the excessive focus on the story and the boring characters. And there just is nothing going for this game at all.
You know, I was thinking about it, and just right now, and I was like...
Dude, I love first-person aiming in this game. You don't even have to play it.
I was thinking about it, and I was like... I don't really... Like, when games come out, like, games I'm looking forward to, I don't really, like, complain about them, because I'm just so happy that the games in the series I like exist, that I'm like, it's fine. Like... Resident Evil Village, I love, but I'd probably love it anyway, even if it wasn't actually good. Because it's like, it's new Resident Evil, you know? If they came out with another Silent Hill, I'd be like, this game's awesome.
Do you love Resident Evil 6 for the same reason?
There were... absence makes the heart grow stronger, so if there was, like, a 5-year period between, like, any Resident Evil games and 6, I'd probably be like, okay, at least it's something. Like, Last of Us 2, when I played it, I was like, what are people complaining about? I was like, yeah, it's crappy they did that to the characters, but I don't care. I'm not, like, married to these characters. Like, what are you, a freaking weirdo? You know what I mean? Like, I've had so many things, like, ruin characters I like that I'm just like, it's fine. You know what I mean? Like, friggin' Terminator's ruined. Like, everything gets ruined from, like, these remakes and stuff. Rambo gets ruined. Who cares? Just...
Was that new or newish Rambo movie that bad?
Apparently, yeah. He's like, apparently the one that came out around like 08 or 10 or whatever was like actually pretty cool. Like, it was like, hey, he's older, but like, and he doesn't even want to do it, but he ends up like kicking butt and whatever. But apparently the newest and last one is like, he is just not into it and whatever. And they tried.
Oh, they made ones after that?
Oh, yeah! Yeah, they made The Last Blood, I guess.
He's like 70.
I know.
I don't know how
I mean,
he is,
he's in better shape than I am now, don't get me wrong, but I'm also not an action hero. But yeah, seriously, people generally like the one from like around like 08 or so. They're like, yeah, it's pretty good.
The dead I'd seen had been torn apart by something.
They friggin' in the newest Terminator, they made friggin' the Terminator like living in a cottage and sending text messages to Sarah Connor telling when the Terminators are going to show up. Like, how? I can't even.
Yeah. Anytime that
he can be a good guy, that's fine, but he can't be a friggin' wimp. Come on, man.
I think it should be illegal to work on someone else's source material that, like, decades later and be like, okay, here's a sequel to that source material.
You have to reboot it. It's fine. It's like Halloween, like Rob Zombie rebooted it, and it's like, fine, it stands on its own. That's fine, you know? But to just be like, oh, it's a sequel and Arnold's in it. Although I guess Arnold could have literally been like, no, I won't be in this. But he's in it so little that, like, how could you resist the obviously huge paycheck for doing nothing? I'm not ever going to lie and be like, I wouldn't do that. Like, I totally would.
So, that entire section of us going into... Oh, yeah. What do I look at here? Oh, that very faintly... Is that what I look at? Hello? Look how specific that is.
Based. Hi, thing.
It's like a...
Koopo!
Yeah, it's like a Chocobo Koopo. With scary mouth. Oh, see ya. I'm sure that creature will not matter at all.
Samus, proceed through the hatch I just unlocked. Your next destination.
Oh, thank you, Daddy Adam.
Alright. Question of the part. What is a character in any medium, movies, books, games, whatever, that has been around for at least, I want to say, 3 or 4 things, movies, games, whatever, that wasn't completely bastardized, at some point? Like Samus, we're watching it right now. I mentioned Rambo, I mentioned Terminator. One that... Would you say Solid Snake? Like, was he done dirty in 4? Or... it's been so long since I played that game.
I don't like 4...
but he got, like, a hero send-off, right?
The thing is that... What the hell is happening? It's like the center bar was not working.
Rip.
The thing about 4 is that I hate everything about the plot, but Snake almost doesn't talk at all. And I've actually watched an interview where that was kind of Kojima's... That was on purpose, where Snake was supposed to be more of a passive character. But especially since Snake's last appearance was in 2, where he was basically a mentor for Raiden. He talked a lot, and he was, like, objectively superior to Raiden as, like, a seasoned warrior and everything. So you just have to... Oh, yeah. But making 4 basically the sequel to 2 of having actual Solid Snake in it again, and then having him be such a passive character, it's like, it feels weird.
I can see that. Yeah, like I said, all I remember from that game is, like, his heroic, like, ending of it.
But no, Snake is treated with so much more love and care than Samus is.
Oh, yeah.
Even though I don't like 4, I would say that Snake's characterization is definitely something I don't hate. He constantly fails because he's, like, so old and weathered. He's just, like, the last hero in a generation that's dying. It's like, it's sad in that way.
He was only in 2 games, but Ethan Winters wasn't, like, screwed around or anything like that. I know he doesn't have, like, a whole ton of story specifically.
And he also doesn't have a whole ton of character. But,
yeah.
I do feel bad for Ethan, because I've been playing Resident Evil 7 again, because I've been, like, platinum a bunch of...
He just gets BTFO'd constantly.
Yeah, I feel horrible for him.
Well, think about all the other Resident Evil characters. Chris, they bastardize him in 6, right? Jill, 5, she was, like, taken under Wesker's power and was, like an utter weakling.
Claire doesn't really get... Claire's really boring in Code Veronica, but she's not the worst.
Yeah. But, yeah, let us know.
She's in Revelations 2. I don't remember anything.
I don't remember. The only one I remember being bad in Rev 2 is Moira. So,
yeah, I remember Barry being fine.
Barry's awesome.
Rev 2 is definitely the game I remember the least.
I like Rev 2.
I don't have to actually...
I played it multiplayer, like, multiple times.
Okay, good.
And it's gotta be a game or a movie or whatever that's story based. You can't be like Mario. It's like, what story does Or like I was thinking Mega Man, but I'm like, literally, what story does Mega Man
it's like
do?
you can't. I mean, characters get played out and boring, like especially at the end of the X series. Like X is just still the same character, so you're like, oh, okay, he doesn't like fighting.
Does Gordon Freeman ever get BTFO'd? I know he's like a non-character, but he still has a very specific like feel.
Yeah, he doesn't get BTFO in terms of physical threats, but he sure gets BTFO by fate and how horrible his life is. Basically, since the events of Half-Life 1, he's had zero rest and is just constantly fighting aliens. Because like Half-Life 2, even though it takes place years in the future, Gordon gets like warped there. So, like, the events of 2 happen immediately after 1 for him.
Oh, yeah, that's right, because he's like, on the train or whatever.
Yeah, he has, like, the worst life in the world.
Also...
check out that thigh.
Yeah! Another example, but, like, not one that I would consider, like a bad bastardized example, would be Isaac Clarke from Dead Space. I don't think they ever really, like...
I think Isaac Clarke is fine.
Because from the very beginning, he's getting BTFO'd mentally and physically.
Yeah.
And he's, like, strong throughout it. He's not like,
Yeah, it's one of those things...
He doesn't give up.
Giving a silent protagonist a voice in the sequel is always a recipe for failure, but I think in 2 he is...
No, he's fine.
He is more than fine. I think he's actually a pretty decent protagonist.
I would have no problem with that. I'm trying to think of other ones off the top of my head.
Oh, yeah, I have to hold down...
here's another one. Kratos. Kratos is a great one of... They really never did him dirty. And I feel like...
he's so much different in the reboot, but
he's still good.
He's still fine. Yeah.
Like, you can... Like, I want to be clear with my thoughts. Like, you can have sadness, and you can have feelings and emotions. Like, you just can't all of a sudden... Like, if Kratos was like, I give up. Like, you ever... Like, Fat Thor, from, like, whatever Marvel movie where he's like, I give up. Like, that's kind of doing him dirty, But, like, yeah, Kratos is a great one, and honestly, with how much people love God of War, they would never, ever, ever allow that. Like, people... You think people flipped crap about Joel from Last of Us? Yeah, right. If Kratos was just like...
Yeah.
Well...
It's a really interesting... Talking about Kratos, it's like... Kratos is not a particularly... He is a compelling character in the original God of War games, but he's such a ball of blind rage that, like, he doesn't... I don't even know how to voice my thoughts about this. The God of War games are great, and Kratos is great in those games, but he is such a non-character in those games. For a good reason. He's, like, a very active character where nothing changes him. Like, all he wants to do is get his revenge.
Yes.
And, like, that's good, but he's also, like, exactly the same character throughout all of them. Except for, like, maybe Ascension, like, a little tiny bit where he's a little bit remorseful. But even in Ascension, he gets really mad.
Well, don't kill his family for no reason.
Yeah. But I do like in God of War, the reboot, like, when I played it, I was like, I don't know. Like, having this, like, played out, like, father-son thing we've seen a million times. And having Kratos be more, like, thoughtful and, like, reserved, I was like, I don't know. But, like, when he's, like, messed with, he does not back down. And I was like, okay, this is so Kratos.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's a great example of one they haven't done dirty yet. And he's been a character for, like, 15 years, so that's, like, pretty solid. I feel like movies, because of how Hollywood is, like, I think video games still have, like, respect for the source material most of the time. Like, movies, it's just like, forget about it. Like, they do not care. They're like, make Rocky into a stupid weakling. It's like, that's fine. You know what I mean? Do a Halloween movie where Michael Myers is a 75-year-old boomer now. It's like, that's fine. You know, I don't know.
Actually, I watched the Halloween reboot, whatever.
Yeah, I think it's just called Halloween.
I actually really like that movie. How, like, what's her name? Laurie Strode or something? I like how obsessed she is with Michael Myers. Like, it's sort of the inverse of the original movie where Michael Myers is, like, hunting her down. and then in the reboot, it's like her hunting Michael Myers down. It's like so interesting to me.
Yeah. No, the movie was.
It's like
good for that.
it's not a great movie. Anything.
They have another one coming out in October.
Oh really?
Yeah. Oh, another one where they didn't do the character dirty ever is Saw from Saw, Jigsaw. They never really did him dirty. He was always in fact, he was too much in control.
Yeah.
Literally.
I was about to say the exact same thing.
Spoilers, he dies in 3, and then in 4, 5, and 6, he, still is I planned this all out.
I planned this years in advance.
Years in advance, and it's like, okay, a little too much in control. I knew that in Saw 5, this person would do this thing 2 years after my death. It's like, oh, damn, you're really in control, bro. One of the ones I was reading about yesterday, and maybe there's a reason that people hate these movies, is all the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies after the first one, where, in the first one, there was, Leatherface is, crazy good villain, right? Because he's, not really even necessarily a villain. He's just a messed up, mentally disabled guy who family sucks, and pushes him into stuff, right? And there was, one scene in it, I think, where he's, wearing some sort of, women's clothing or something like that. Or maybe there's, a brief part of that in, the second one. I might have the movies wrong. But then the movie right after that, they, have, a whole subplot about, how he's a cross-dresser, and it's for what purpose? What does this add? Does it make him, are you trying to make him more, deranged? Because it's hard to do. Are you trying to make him more,
oh, come on,
likable? Or, I don't know. Just stuff like that, I'm what is the purpose of
I don't
this?
know. I think they were just we have to make a sequel to this
pretty
movie.
much.
We have to think of anything.
Yeah, that's probably it.
So these guys, why it's taking so long? I don't know if there's an optimal way to fight these guys. It's not like I'm that great at this game. You can only attack them when his front opens like that.
Ooh, I think all things considered...
Why did that not dodge?
I think all things considered, Freddy from Nightmare on Elm Street was never done dirty. Maybe in some of the later ones, but I don't remember ever seeing anything like that.
This is one of the only actual pickups that you get in the entire game. And all it does is make your charge shot, do a bunch of, shrapnel damage.
The Mega Man X thing.
It's cool. But, I think there's only, 2 or 3 original pickups in this game. Everything else is just authorized to you at random.
That sucks. But yeah, I think we've kind of seen that if you are a character in a story-based game or movie or whatever for more than 10, 15 years, at some point they will be actually we don't have respect for this character. At some point, unless you're Kratos.
Did you hate what they did to Luke Skywalker in 8?
So...
I know opinions are mixed there.
I'm really not a huge Star Wars guy in terms of being oh, it's gotta be by the book or whatever. I'm one of those people that's I like the prequels. They're really stupid and kind of bad, but I like them. You know what I mean? One of those people that can just be whatever, So, do I think it's stupid? Yeah. Do I think it's the exact same thing as Joel and Last of Us 2? Yeah. But did it bother me that much? No. And then Last Jedi is the best movie ever made because it literally led straight to the worst movie ever made, Rise of Skywalker, because J.J. Abrams had to just constantly undo everything from the last movie, so they had to be Luke was the lightsaber is a weapon of a Jedi. You always have to respect it forever. And it's just so good.
Yeah, it's quite pathetic.
So, yeah, I don't know. I can definitely see why people are angry about that. I literally only really like the original trilogy, and I'm not married to the characters.
It's one of those things that I really like those movies, but I never really liked Luke that much as a character. Like, I think some other characters like Obi-Wan and Han Solo like outshine him by like a lot.
Yeah, so I don't really like Luke in 4 or 5, but I think he's pretty awesome in 6.
Yeah. But even in 6, it's like, he's pretty cool.
But that's his character arc.
He's pretty cool in 6, but like, especially like in the throne room, like the one who steals the show is the Emperor. And like Vader is the one that kills the Emperor. I don't know, it just feels like Luke isn't like a super important character in his own story.
Did he kill the Emperor?
Oh yeah, that's right. He literally didn't. Thank you.
Trevor
Thank you, JJ Abrams.
Trevor BTF. I said it earlier in the part. Somehow Palpatine is back. I'm gonna make.
Dude, Rise of Skywalker is basically fan fiction.
It's the best movie ever made. Literally, at the end, they're like. I mean, I'm gonna remind you that Reylo, what is that they call it? Rey and Kylo, like, kiss at the end for no reason. Dude, I'm obsessed with watching, like, people, like, have, like, hour-long reviews on this and explaining, like, why it's worse than even I think. And Kylo literally doesn't say a single word for, like, the last 40 minutes of the movie. And, like, the whole point of, like, the whole trilogy was, like, it was, like, he should have been the main character more than even Rey. You know what I mean? And he doesn't talk for the last half of the last movie at all. So just a reminder that they kiss at the end for no reason. And then he dies just because. I just want to remind you about that. He's just like, I quit.
Doesn't he, like, heal Rey?
No, Rey heals him because Rey has super Jedi powers now.
Oh, that's even worse.
Yeah. Rey literally, and like it wasn't explained before, but I guess the fact that they showed one scene at the beginning of her like training, and it was like 2 years later or whatever, just implies like, well, she was already God. Now that she's trained for even more than a second, she is literally Super Saiyan Ultra Instinct Goku.
Dude,
Which, by the way, Goku is the example that you always use for a super overpowered person. Goku gets BTFO'd constantly.
Yeah, also...
Constantly.
Goku had decades of experience and training and everything.
Goku literally dies! He literally dies!
He literally dies twice.
Twice! I mean, I know he's, like, the character that's, like, the strongest and whatever, but, like, they always constantly show him getting... like, working this... In fact, his whole character is, Chi-Chi, I don't have time to be a dad or a husband or whatever because I have to train. That's literally his whole thing. So, like, yeah, he's going to be the strongest because of that. I don't know. It's...
Yeah, like, he dedicated his entire life. Like, Rey dedicates the last year of her life to training. She doesn't even know anything about the Jedi.
So that is not an apt comparison. If Goku was just like, oh, wow, I turned Super Saiyan, like, if Rey was in DBZ, she would turn Super Saiyan 4 before 1. She would just be like, oh, look, I'm Ultra Instinct. What is this? And then Goku would be like, oh, I've been trying to do that for 50 years! And that's it. The end.
Yeah, you know the time when Goku turns into Super Saiyan 3, and basically the only reason why he's able to do it is because he's like, he, like, thought it was possible in his mind, but that might be seen as, like, an ass pull, but he's been, like, training for so long, and, like, he clearly has been training with the Super Saiyan for, like, even by then, for, like, years. It's like, okay, I can believe that he can do this just by, like, mentally preparing himself.
Well, and also, it's, like, crappy. Like, he gets... BTFO'd, he's like, oh, I finally got to this. Oh, but it's not a perfect thing.
Yeah.
And what, it uses power really fast or something? I think there's something like that. Like,
yeah,
oh,
I mean,
really
it's a combination of it using a lot of ki and also Boo is basically immortal.
True. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was stuck on this one. I did this one yesterday because I was replaying this game. You have to look at these larvae over here.
Oh.
I had to look this one up, and I was like, what do I do? I was just, like, looking around for 5 minutes. So we'll do this, mini-boss, I guess, and then probably call it a part. I think this part went pretty well, so
yeah.
You'd be cool if another sit down?
Absolutely.
Cool.
Also, I want to say one more thing.
I think this game's visceral enough that Spencer won't be bored.
No. I don't get bored, ever. As long as I can talk about Rise of Skywalker, I'm good. Also, I want to remind everyone that Snoke was going to be the big bad guy. Okay? And then, of course, Rey kills him in, like, 1 second without trying. And then, in Rise of Skywalker, JJ had to put in the lab that literally there are a billion Snokes that the Emperor is making. And so Snoke, not only did he die really fast, but he didn't matter because they have a billion of them. That's literally bravo. That's like, I don't know. What is that like? That's like Albert Wesker in 1, like, dying, and then someone being like, no, I don't think that's the same. Someone having, like, a million Albert Weskers in vats being like, oh, it's fine. It's not a big deal. It's not quite the same, but it's just so good. I literally love Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah. I don't hate Episode 8 as much as some people do, but some of the ideas where it's like, I want to kill off Snoke just to prove fans wrong, which is what it felt like Rian Johnson.
It's the Last of Us 2 thing. So I went into it, I talked to Paul Fulmer about this recently. I went into it just as a movie and was like, wow, I really like this movie. But I didn't go into it as a Star Wars movie because I don't care. You know, like, it's different from, like, and it's different for everyone. Maybe someone can go into Terminator Genesis as just a movie and be like, it was enjoyable. But I go into it as a Terminator movie because F.U. Terminator 2 exists and Terminator 1 exists. You know what I mean? Like, so I get it on either side of things. But it's just, what was I going to say? It's just amazing how when you just try to subvert expectations, like, over and over again, you just...
Yeah, you start making, like, a plot that doesn't make any sense. And it's like, it's almost to look at the plot, you have to think of, like, what it means in, like, a meta sense and, like, what the director was thinking more than a story itself. And, like, once you get to that point, it's just like, this isn't very fun. It just seems to, like, you understand that fans aren't... You shouldn't pander to fans constantly. But to specifically make your plot to be like, I'm gonna mess with the fans, it's like, that's when it goes too far.
Yeah, because, like, what did Neil Druckmann think when Last of Us 2 came out, that people would be like, wow, I really appreciate you making the main characters from the first game look like complete buttholes. Yeah. Like, would they be like, wow, I never thought of it that way? Would they really? Like, there's so many better ways that you can, like, show them as, like, hey, well, what if this? You know what I mean? There's, like, you can do that and make...
So here's my thing about Last of Us 2. I think you can make Neil and, what's her face? Ellie. I think it's fine to paint them in a morally gray light, where maybe they were doing something that was good and bad in the eyes of others. But the thing is that the opposing force is so unlikable too, that you have these characters that you don't like either side anymore. It's like,
okay,
it's like Ellie is morphed into this character you don't even recognize by the end, and, like, Abby and the other ones are so unlikable.
My major point is, and obviously what they were trying to do is make it, like, Abby, like, likable and whatever. Even if they would have done, like, hey, everyone sucks, right? Like, there are, like, movies and stuff like that where, like, the whole point is, like, everyone kind of sucks, right? Like Mad Max, everyone sucks, right? Like, every side sucks. But they didn't go that way. If they would have went that way and just had the balls to be like, look, everyone sucks. This is the after the apocalypse, like, everyone's out for themselves, everyone sucks. Yeah, right? But they didn't do that.
They definitely did a thing where Abby was definitely morally in the right.
Oh, easily. 100%.
And it's like, when you want to make a story like that, you just can't do that.
Right. In fact, I like movies and games like that where they're just like, you know what? Everyone's wrong, but maybe someone's less wrong.
But when you have a bias to one side when you're making this plot, like, let the audience decide. Don't let your bias decide.
Yeah, YouTube land, don't let your bias decide. All right, we'll see you next time with more Other M. Well, you never thought you would hear us say that, but guess what? Other M, mother. I knew that years ago.
Dang.
Yep, I'm big brain. See you next time.